right, hello everyone. Welcome to Making Your Data Work for You, how AFC grantees use reporting data for their own purposes. We're excited to have you all join us for this session today during the ACF Indigenous Programs Conference. Before we begin, we will be sharing some instructions on how you can interact during this session. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the room monitor.
Yes, hello, and welcome everyone. My name is Brent Huggins, and I will be the room monitor for this workshop. I just wanted to share a few quick housekeeping details before I turn it over to the presenters today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat box. I will monitor these and record these for the Q&A session to be asked at that time. You can also raise your hand on Zoom at the bottom of your screen, and you can ask your question verbally in the last few minutes remaining during the Q&A section. And we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. I'm also dropping a link into the chat for the survey. We'd really appreciate you taking the time to, taking the time to complete the survey. And then as everyone is probably aware now, we are recording each of these sessions and they will be on the website for an additional month. So you can find all of the information there. And we really just hope that you enjoy the workshop today. So I'll turn it back over to Rebecca.
All right, thank you. Thank you for those opening messages. Let's get started with the workshop. If you'll give me a second here, I'm going to share my screen with you all. All right, Brent, will you give me a thumbs? Can you see that? All right, so welcome to Making Your Data Work for You, how AFC grantees use reporting data for their own purposes. I'm going to advance this slide. All right, we have grantee presentations by Karen Chung, Deborah Northberg, and Robin Sumi. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to allow the grantees to do a little presentation of themselves before we get started, just so I don't want to butcher anybody's name. So I guess, Karen, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Chung, and I am a program evaluator at South Central Foundation in Anchorage, Alaska.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deb Northberg. I'm the Senior Director of Child and Family Services at Cook Inlet Tribal Council in Anchorage, Alaska.
Hi, everyone. My name is Loso Yaolualo. I'm the Chief Program Officer for Intersections Inc.
Hi, my name is Rosie. I am a health educator for Intersections.
All right. Okay, give me a second. I'm so sorry. I'm having a little bit of an issue here. I'm going to stop sharing screen for a little bit. Rosie, will you and Lalo visit about your intersections while I figure this out? My apologies.
Sure. Sorry, what was that, Rebecca?
I'm asking you to provide me some time while I get my tech figured out.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. It's only 9 a.m. here in American Samoa, and we are very excited this morning to join and also to hear from everyone else who are also presenting. And yeah, thank you so very much.
Do the other grantees want to speak as well? Deborah?
Yes. Well, it is actually after lunchtime here. I didn't realize we had such a range of time zones in our presenters today. So good afternoon from Alaska. And we're looking forward to sharing some information about how we're using data today.
All right, my apologies. I believe we are good to go now. Okay. Sorry about that. See, we had a good time the last time, and this is what happens, you know, it gets too good. So I wanted to start the session by providing a little bit of background about what inspired this workshop. Then 3 of the grantees, 2 of which you just heard from, will share how they've used data from ACF program requirements to address questions and concerns of their community. You've just heard from Dr. Karen Chung from South Central Foundation, who will share first. And then Loso and Rosie from Intersections, and they're in American Samoa, as you've just heard, will share. And then Deborah Northberg and Robin Sumi from Cook Inlet Tribal Council will share. Since the summer of 2016, staff from the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation, OPRE, at ACF have been convening monthly and quarterly meetings to facilitate an ACF-wide discussion about all things related to data with Native communities. This informal conversation has been an opportunity for program and evaluation offices to share about what is happening across ACF that we might not otherwise know. In addition to learning about what's happening, we strive to follow this call to action, the roadmap for collaborative and effective evaluation in tribal communities. This roadmap offers practical approaches for intentionally building a new narrative on research and evaluation in ACF Indigenous communities. The ACF-wide discussion, we're working together to bring that change. So here's, so without having to read too much of this, we wanted to just have this up. And in 2012, the Children's Bureau convened a tribal evaluation work group to develop a product informed by Indigenous ways of knowing that would assist in building credible, relevant, and adaptable evidence across communities. The work group decided to create a roadmap for building a new narrative on research and evaluation of Native communities. This is a picture of that roadmap. The document itself is included as a resource for this workshop. So down the center of the picture is the backbone of the new narrative, which aspires for 1, collaborative, culturally responsive evaluation, 2, system improvement, 3, locally guided questions, data and insight, 4, meaningful analysis, and 5, bidirectional learning, and 6, American Indian and Alaskan Native evaluation skills. At our ACF-wide discussion this fall, we were talking about possible workshops for the ACF Indigenous Programs Conference. We thought it would be great for grantees to share how they're building a new narrative on evaluation through the innovative ways they're using information from the data and evaluation requirements of their own grants and for their own purposes. And we're excited for you to hear about these approaches. And I will have to say, this is one of many data sovereignty-esque panel presentations that we'll continue to have. So it's very exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to start this presentation and turn my camera off.
Great. And I'm just trying to start my camera and it's not letting me.
Oh.
But that's okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, you wanted to start the video?
No, my camera. But it's not letting me start my camera. But that's okay. I can go ahead and talk without my video. And everyone can see. And actually, Rebecca, would you mind going back 1 slide or a couple of slides?
Apologies.
And while you do that, I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Karen Cho with South Central Foundation. And I'm excited to be here today because the New Talk Civic Tribal Homebuilding Program at South Central is near and dear to my heart. I love it and I love talking about it with other people. We use the nurse family partnership model to support moms and families during pregnancy and up to 2 years after a baby is born. And I'm going to share a few examples of how we've used data from our grant reporting. Next slide, please. SCF is a not-for-profit health system owned and run by Alaska Native people for Alaska Native people. Our work is rooted in the vision of a Native community that enjoys physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. And we work closely together to achieve wellness through many different health and social services, including home visiting for pregnant women and mothers and their families. Next slide, please. Our goals include shared responsibility, commitment to quality, and family wellness. And I think as an organization, we have a lot of programs, initiatives that align with these goals. And we constantly use data to assess where we are in achieving these goals and to identify kind of these opportunities for improvement and identifying where those gaps are. Next slide, please. At South Central, we believe that Alaska Native people are in charge of designing and delivering healthcare, and that is why we refer to patients as customer owners. This is a core principle of ours, and I think it fits in nicely with data sovereignty. We want to equip people with the right information, with data, and with the tools to make important decisions. Next slide, please. So now that you have kind of that background and context about South Central, with New Toxavic, which is a program funded through Tribal Maternal Infant and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program at ACF. There's also a sister program through HRSA for state programs. But Tribal McBee provides grants to help implement evidence-based home visiting programs for families and families with children from birth to about age 5. So we're at about kindergarten entry. Under this program, we do have quite a number of reporting requirements. We report on some things on a quarterly basis, so things like the number of families we've enrolled in the program. And then there are things we report on an annual basis, including demographics, and then there are a set of 15 performance measures. And I've listed some of these performance measures here. So things like screenings for child development delays, screening for depression, well child visits, parent-child interactions, breastfeeding initiation. We're also required to participate in continuous quality improvement activities and be part of a larger collaborative with other grantees. And those are just a great opportunity for us to share lessons learned with others and hear from them and kind of collaborate on those efforts. Next slide, please. We have a reporting system for our performance measures, and this is a screenshot of the online portal that Tribal McBee grantees use. So we submit our data reports on this portal. There are these built-in validation checks to make sure our data is correct and there's no errors. And we are alerted when our project officer has reviewed our data or if she were to send it back for revisions. And I enjoy using this tool. It took a little bit of getting used to, but I think it's really nice to have a repository of our data. And we know we can always come back here to find old reports. So this is how we enter our data. And then in this next slide, you see that after we submit our data on this online reporting system, we get a summary of our progress and assessment of whether we've improved in specific benchmark areas when compared to baseline. So this is a relatively new feature. I think we've had this in the past 2 years or so. But it's helpful to see how the data is aggregated and how the funder assesses our performance. So how ACF is assessing our performance. And I think this provides a lot of transparency. It also highlights the specific measures that we should focus on in upcoming years. So you see 2 measures here in red. We have depression screening and parent-child interaction. So those are 2 measures in which we did not demonstrate kind of this market improvement. And I think as a team, we can certainly explain why. I think we had an inkling before we even submitted this that we knew we were not up to par on those 2 measures, but it's helpful to have this on paper and on hand as we reflect on how we're doing. Next slide. So the previous slide showed you how the data is provided back to us. And this slide shows how we've used our performance measures to create kind of another visual for ourselves. So we look at trends over time. And I realize the graphs on this slide are small, but it's just meant to give you an idea of some of the things we've created and how we've used the data. So this is a dashboard of sort. We've graphed each of the measures, each of those 15 measures for each year to examine how we're doing. So we use this dashboard internally within our program to talk about which measures we want to work on. So similar to what you had seen before, we had identified depression screening and parent-child interaction. But this way we can kind of look at how we've done throughout the years, starting from 2018 to the last year. And we use this to talk about what's surprising, what makes sense, why the numbers are the way they are. We've also presented this. It's nice because it's a one-pager, but we presented this to our medical services leadership, so they're familiar with these measures and the data we're collecting as part of this program. And I think this has provoked some really interesting discussions among our team and among leadership about potential research questions that I think are worth exploring. For example, our leadership has asked, do children in our new toxic program, do they do better? Do they have better rates of well-child visits or immunizations than those who aren't in the program? And I'm finding these fascinating, and I'm glad that they're on board with kind of exploring these further. So I love that this visual has provided a jumping off point for further discussion and just further inquiry. Next slide. As a supplement to that dashboard that I just showed you, we also created some tables with actual numbers, numerators and denominators, so that we can really dive into the data if we wanted to do that. When we're dealing with small numbers on some of these measures, it's sometimes helpful to know what's causing a huge dip or a huge increase. A change of one or two families can lead to a drastic difference if that number is small. So I'm able to provide this supplement along with that dashboard for some of those discussions.
5 minutes.
Okay. In addition, we have created infographics using our performance data, something to summarize our accomplishments over the past year. This here is one example of an infographic from 2019. This was actually inspired by something that the larger tribal McBee program did. They had created a home visiting action type infographic, and I think it was in the form of a bookmark. They aggregated data across all grantees and summarized kind of the incredible work of the grantees. So I decided to do something similar for our own program. I kind of took their idea. They inspired me to create something for our own program. And then the next slide, you'll see another example from 2020. So I wanted to highlight our successes during the pandemic and show how much our nurse home visitors were doing during this really difficult and trying time. So emphasizing all those things. For example, they were still able to conduct close to 3,000 visits in 2020. And 98% of the children in our program were still receiving all the recommended immunizations. Those are the types of things to celebrate and to remember, especially when the times are hard. I wanted the nurse home visitors and program staff to know that they are really, developing these deep, meaningful relationships with families, and for them to feel proud and reminded of the impact they're having on families. I felt like this infographic was just one little way to remind them of that. And then conducting CQI activities is a required component of the grant. And with this, we're asked to report on a set of specific measures each month for about a year. We submit our data in Excel file, and then there are formulas in that file that automatically generate these nice run charts for us. So our team takes a little bit of time before we submit our data each month to review it. It's a quick, easy way for us to check in, kind of do this pulse check and monitoring kind of our day-to-day implementation of the program and just kind of see where we're at on a more regular basis.
3 minutes.
And then as part of those CQI activities, we also complete and update worksheets about our PDSA cycles, and it's another opportunity for us to reflect. I especially like the prompts in these worksheets. It's asking us to examine the data and reflect on what we've learned. It feels a little bit like homework, I admit, and we might do it begrudgingly sometimes, but honestly, I think we need the structure and we kind of need the accountability, because if it weren't required, we wouldn't be doing this, examining the data so closely, so often, and for so long. Next slide, please. So to summarize, here are 3 ways in which we've used our grant reporting data. First, we've developed a dashboard of performance measures, examine trends over time, and then to identify areas for improvement. Second, we've developed infographics to highlight accomplishments and call out our successes. And third, we've used the CQI activities to reflect on kind of our day-to-day operations and to make tweaks and improve our programming. And for each of these, we have a variety of audiences for dissemination, including program staff, our home visitors for sure, administrators and leadership, and then our community advisory board and referral partners. So I think all of that gets to kind of improving sustainability of our program. Next slide, please. So why do we use all this data? Well, I'm a fan of recycling, repurposing, reusing. This data is readily available, so I think we should totally use it beyond just reporting to ACF. Our team spends a lot of time collecting and reporting on the data. And as evaluator, I feel like it's my job to make it useful for the program. I like that the data we have measures both processes and outcomes, and it helps us identify areas we need to work on and improve. Often we think we know the story of our program, but seeing the data this way helps us either affirm the story or gives us a new perspective on how to tell that story. And then I also use this data because I trust it. It's been thoroughly reviewed for quality, for accuracy. It's gone through these validation checks, and it's had many different pairs of eyes on it over time. I also really like having tangible products because so much of our work is related to the process, and it includes reflection, but having a tangible product to show our home visitors the value of the data they collect, I feel like brings it home to them and reminds them of kind of why this data collection is important.
1 minute.
Lastly, this data helps us tell part of the story of home visiting. It doesn't always give us a full picture because I'd love to incorporate more qualitative data as well, but I think it gives us pretty good snapshots. And it's a good starting point for us to reflect on all the hard work that goes into implementing home visiting. Thank you.
All right, up next, we have Deborah Northberg and Robin Sumi with the Cook Inlet Tribal Council, and I'll pass it off to Deborah.
Thank you, Rebecca. We are telling the story of one of our grant projects, which is an ACF Tribal TANF Child Welfare Collaboration Grant. So we're going to talk about some history around these collaboration efforts and how we're making this data work for us. Next slide, please. I'd like to introduce us again, and we're happy to follow our sister nonprofit, South Central Foundation. Cook Inlet Tribal Council is a tribal social service organization in Alaska's largest urban hub, that is Anchorage, Alaska. Anchorage is home to a little more than 40% of the statewide population. And we are affiliated with the Cook Inlet Region Incorporated, one of the 13 tribal corporations that were established in the Land Claim Settlement Act here. The Cook Inlet region is very wide, is very broad rather, and includes traditional areas for 8 tribes who share the Athabascan culture. Next slide, please. Just a quick picture about where we are located in Alaska. Mid right corner is Anchorage. We are in the inlet there. Next slide, please. Cook Inlet Tribal Council is really uniquely positioned to innovate collaborative strategies through the delivery of our key services across the organization and within our subsidiaries. These key areas include employment and training that houses our tribal TANF program, child and family services that includes both child welfare programs and prevention and early home visiting programs. Our recovery and reentry houses our substance abuse treatment services. Education and innovation includes both in-class instruction within the local school district and after-school enrichment activities, including the sponsoring of the Native Youth Olympics. And our subsidiary partners include our Alaska Native Justice Center, Claire Swan Early Learning, that is our Early Head Start program, and our for-profit CEI and Eline Media. Next slide, please. As a multi-service organization, we collect a large amount of required data through various federal and state grants, contracts, and allotments. And as a strategy of a series of grants funded by ACF to improve our cross-system collaboration, we did an inventory of program measures across service areas and organized these various measures in community level indicators and outcomes that aligned with our values, mission, and vision. I know it's really hard to see the writing on that slide. But this work was linked to an organizational effort to apply a results-based accountability framework to our continuum of service delivery that would help us better understand the impact of all of our services collectively. Next slide, please. And so with a lens of results-based accountability and a focus on community level impact, we recognize the need to not just analyze and report outcomes in key areas, but to link these data to better understand multi-generational success. The outcomes are linked in important ways across services. We serve parents primarily in our employment and training and tribal TANF programs to support work readiness and burial removal. We support children in education. We strengthen family connections in both our youth serving programs and our child and family serving programs. And our child and family serving programs and recovery service programs are really focused on connecting to peers and building out social networks. And so we have a focus on collecting data and integrating data across these various management information systems toward the development of a family information system that allows us to look at family level impact. Next slide, please. So we organized our multi-generational data collection and analysis around the key question, very simple: what moves a family forward? And we recognize that in addition to the required data collected to report in each of our key service areas, that there were key data that are organized around enhancing those protective factors that improve outcomes and insulate families from adverse experiences, and that these influence all key life domains that are the focus of all of our key service areas. And so as a result of considering these protective factors, it was clear that we needed to consider the definitions of these protective factors through an Indigenous lens. And so this spurred for us a multi-year process of developing a common tool that supplements our required data collection across all service areas, but connects us together. This supports data sovereignty in that we are identifying what the important data indicators are. And we did this through researching protective factors, researching peer connections and self-sufficiency. But then we more importantly collected information from our staff and our families and other stakeholders in order to develop this tool. And next slide, please. So this really moves us closer toward using both the required data to support our program implementation outcomes and helping us to integrate data that we have designed and collected. And I'd like to invite Robin Summy, who is our project director for our current Tribal TANF Child Welfare Collaboration Project, to talk some about how we incorporate all of this together to support our growth over time. Robin?
Thank you, Deb. Hello, everyone. So we're using our required data, as Deb mentioned, to help us measure our progress towards better collaboration across CITC, starting with participant data. And Deb just set the stage for us to talk a little bit more about the 5 factors assessment and the role it plays at CITC. We use the 5 factors assessment to gather self-reported participant data, really focusing on asking our participants to tell us what matters to them. So just broadly, the 5 factors assessment is intended to be an interactive tool for staff to use with their participants, primarily to help in identifying participant-centered goals for their personal wellness and their overall family wellness. It guides participants through 5 key domains, and those are financial stability, education and training, cultural and spiritual wellness, healthy lifestyles, and healthy relationships.
5 minutes, Robin.
Thank you. So in addition to serving as a tool for staff to really focus on encouraging participants to set their own goals, it also acts as a tool for us to be able to measure a participant's progress over time in meeting their own goals, because they repeat the 5 factors at regular intervals based on their program. So last year, CITC achieved a goal, as Deb also mentioned, of integrating that 5 factors across the entire organization. And this is really a key step in our eyes in our overall process towards developing more coordinated and responsive services, because we believe that having a shared assessment with shared access for staff gives us consistent data and structure across all programs. And because the 5 factors is really centered on participant self-reported data, our goal is to continue to remain flexible and responsive to what participants are telling us that they need, because they're setting the priorities rather than us. So we're also able to analyze our program outcome data together in dashboards. We have 5 factors specific dashboards available in centralized locations. And then we also have a consolidated dashboard that all departments contribute their outcome data, some of those outcomes that Deb was talking about a few slides back. And this brings us to the CAT. So the CAT is a pretty exciting tool for us in this TTCW project. This is our collaborative assessment tool, and we use it to measure our overall progress, both on the level of the TTCW project, but also on the macro level across the organization, to measure our progress over time to enhance our collaboration. And I just wanted to note that Deb and I have been aware that the CAT is kind of a unique tool in that it actually measures collaboration as an outcome in and of itself, which isn't super common. Often we're collaborating, but we're not necessarily honing in on measuring simply the collaboration as an outcome, which has really been valuable for us. So just a few brief highlights about how we use the CAT. When ACF provided the tool to us, they also encouraged all the grantees in our cohort to make the tool work for us. So we modified the CAT to reflect our 5 factors goals, and also to reflect systems language that our staff here at CITC are familiar with. So when they were taking the survey, it would resonate a little bit more with them. We administer the CAT to all levels of staff who touch the 5 factors assessment, starting with people who administer it with their participants, all the way up to our executive leadership over those programs. And that gives us a really valuable, comprehensive view for how everyone is viewing our progress in collaboration. And as we're analyzing the results, we're also looking at administrations over time, any factors such as COVID that influence collaboration, anything that's unexpected, trends and changes, so on. And that brings me to dissemination. I'll just note that we are aware that dissemination is a, I think it's often viewed as something that you're providing and it's a product that you're sharing, but it's really critical for us to make sure that we're making that a conversation with our partners, that we're using the dissemination results from our CAT to identify those areas for shared understanding and shared improvements that we'd all like to work on together, and hopefully move us forward in telling the whole story of our collaboration. Deb, would you like to wrap up in any way?
I think we're nearly out of time, but I just want to reiterate.
You're on mute.
It looks like we're just about out of time, but Robin, I'd like to reiterate an important point you made about the fact that you collect data about things that you care about and that you want to build on or improve. And so we really have seen this data collection tool that's required of us, the collaborative assessment tool, as a significant benefit in moving our system improvements along. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, Robin, and Karen. Previously, I'll move on to American Samoa. Feel free to, okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Loso Yaolwalo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rosie.
Next slide, please.
I think, yeah.
Our workshop is using data to be able to work on projects that we have with doing the iLead. So the digital storytelling project is part of the iLead project evaluation completed each year for the implementation. In this project, we have each year we have a youth summit that is planned by the iLead Youth Summit Committee. And once that committee has put out the can you the next slide? Theme. Yeah, theme. And each year this youth committee sets out a theme for a video project or also a photo project that we use. But these are just some of the themes that we have: sacred youth, unapologetically indigenous. Next slide, please. Once we have decided on the theme of the project, then our youth will be able to come together and decide if they wanted to use a photo project or use a video to highlight the films and ideas of the participants. Next. Once that is done, then the group will come together and brainstorm the interpretation of the theme, draft a list of questions, and to ask themselves or also into the community. Yeah. Next. Now, once the research, they go out and conduct a research out into the community and to their families. Next slide, please. Once they've done the research, then they'll come back with the data that they've collected and used and identify using the process of elimination. First, they identify the strongest ideas and highlight these ideas and categorize them into segments. Once they get into those segments, they divide themselves, and each group will create an outline and also a script to assign to the assigned segments they were assigned to. Next. After that, we use the storyboard. A storyboard is a big, next slide, please. Is a tool that we use to be able to draft the scenes, identify the camera angles, select the filming locations, create the dialogues, and select the videos, and much, much more. Next.
All right. So when it comes to the filming, they choose relevant locations and sites that would make the video much more meaningful, and also very important for them to follow protocols if the filming sites need permission. And another important thing they must always remember is testing all equipments before filming, making sure the cameras are full battery and the memory cards, have enough storage and such. So the photos that are shown are some of the projects, the digital storytelling projects that they've worked on and as they were filming. Next. So editing is another very important phase of the video project. And this is where they have to put together all the video clips, the B-rolls, and just making sure that they follow the storyboard method and that it matches with what they put on video. And so for their first draft, all the peer leaders, they come together and they view it, and this is when they give feedback and also comments for making sure that the video could be improved and could be better. Next. So for the final project, this is when, after they make all the necessary changes and the improvements, and also finalizing the video credits that goes at the end of the video and the acknowledgements, and just making sure that each segment are clear and that it aligns with the theme. And so finally, they submit the final project to ANA, and then what we do with these videos is we publish it also on our YouTube and Facebook page. Next. So at the end of the project, we review and debrief with our peer leaders. I think I have one more. And so 100% of our peer leaders, which consists of about 12 of them, the college peer leaders who work on the digital storytelling project, 100% of them share their experiences, and they say that they develop a stronger culture appreciation, and they continue to embrace their identity as they work on these digital storytelling projects. And so for the following video that we will be playing, the 5 segments that you will be able to see that the video highlighted was heritage, arts, identity, religion and beliefs, and culture and traditions. So we're going to play our video. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I think we just had one last slide to come back to.
They say that a tree's beauty lies in its branches, but its strength lies in its roots. I like to think of myself as the same, a tree with many roots that hold stories of the past that my ancestors have endured. I come from a line of voyagers, storytellers, chiefs, royalty, and strong people who have paved the way for my existence. The blood running through these veins is proof of my family heritage, the same family heritage that serves as a part of my identity as a young Tamaitai Samoa, the family heritage that provides a sense of belonging and security in knowing where I come from, the family heritage that I chose to have knowledge of because it allows me to honor my ancestors. Therefore, as I look into the palms of my hands, I see my parents and all of the generations of my ancestors, all of them alive at that very moment. They are always with me, and I am the continuation of these strong people. I am proud of my roots and family heritage because they are what makes Feitseiuli indigenous. After all, a famous author once said that people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. I am my family's roots and heritage.
By tradition, Samoan daughters would perform the culture dance at family events. Growing up, I had always been on my feet when a traditional Samoan song plays at an event or not. Through this, I knew I had developed a strong passion for dance. Dancing allows me to tell stories through the movements of my hands and feet, as well as my facial expressions. Practiced during the early times of my culture, where oral history was utilized through music, dancing has drawn me close to my ancestors. It has become the ultimate way to express myself culturally. I am Siva Samoa.
I am a tropical blend of many diverse cultures and traditions. I am Native American, African American, German, Fijian, and Samoan. I am a descendant of the African slaves that appear in the history books. I am the progeny of the Native American tribes, Apache, Cherokee, and Sioux. like the ama or water as the Cherokee say, which is essential but often forgotten. I appear very distinct, like my fierce Apache ancestors in the eyes of many, because of my native-like shaped face, my naturally tan skin, and my dark brown hair and eyes. I am all of these, raised in a small island at the heart of Oceania, a proud Samoan girl from the beautiful village of Whangasa. I am indigenous at heart because all these cultures pump through my veins. I am a hybrid.
I Savali, awe te alu whaano no, whaasa'olo tuo. I was raised to serve. I must serve before I lead. I hear their voices constantly. Sulu whaaleleilo I lava, ia e loa ave tangata. My people have lived through many changes in technology, culture, and perspectives. We have learned to adapt and honor Samoa Mo'omole Tua for our people, traditions, and heritage. We carry community on our shoulders. I don't wear tiaras, but upon my head, I carry my parents' hopes and dreams. My people is my purpose, my plan, and my responsibility. I am a reflection of who they are. Olale le pule ole tautu. I am a servant. I am a leader.
Amuio lo ni tangata. Ona lo fa'asino manga. I thrive on tradition and oral teachings from my ancestors, the navigators of the stars and prosperous adventurers. I am indigenously blessed to embody a Samoan taulealea. Taufi maulo anganu, awani tea. I am proud to be Samoan and proud to be wearing its gifts. I am a tama Samoa moni.
E iloa le tine ma le tama Samoa moni, ilona tu, nofo, tautala, ma lona savali. O upu ma muanga ngana ia, sa tape nai tupulanga Samoa, mo le olanga e whilamlanuai. O awa onga ia, e mautino ai le tu mau le whaavai, o le anganu. O le la au le ola, o le whaamoe moe, ua taunuu. I am my grandfather's staff and my grandmother's voice. I am my father's strength and my mother's grace. I am my brother's favorite pupil and my sister's truth. I am the brown-skinned girl that God breathed into existence. I am the daughter of Samoa.
Awa e te matamuli I loa wanganuu. Don't be ashamed of who you are. Your story can inspire others. It is okay to be different. It is okay to be you. We are unique in our culture, language, heritage, traditions, and strengths. It is a part of who we are. So let's connect through our similarities and celebrate our differences.
We are Indigenous, and we do not apologize for it.
Thank you. So we just wanted to conclude that this was a video project that our peer leaders worked on for 2020. And so because of this project, they had the opportunity to lead and take ownership and also express creative ideas and solidify cultural appreciation and also learn new skills such as videography, editing, and so much more. And so because of the engagement and the sharing of our video projects, because it's usually featured on local television, local agencies seek out partnerships with our peer leaders to create PSAs, radio ads, and also other video projects. So I think, yeah, but these are just some examples that we wanted to show of some of the partnerships, the Department of Health Alliance, and also in the next two photos, that our peer leaders have worked with, raising awareness on bullying, drugs and alcohol, and also equipments that was provided by the Department of Health to do our broadcasting and raise awareness on these issues. So thank you so very much. And
I want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share. If you have any questions or feedback, please put it on the chat, or we'll also put our email and we can contact to that. Thank you so much again for the opportunity to be able to share. So fast before.
Thank you so much for your presentation and that beautiful, beautiful video. We are now going to open the floor for questions. So please raise your Zoom hand or share questions in the chat box. Our room monitor will be looking for those.
Yes, and we do have one question that came in earlier. I think it might have been related to the first presentation. If ACF could provide what platform they're using for the data being input, and also what steps might give assistance for ACF, like how to get to the right platform. So I think that question came in during the first session, if I am correct.
So Karen, do you know that platform? I think Farha might be on the call too. She might be able to.
Oh, great. So ACF, I think, has a contractor that developed that platform. And I don't know the mechanics behind it, but it is pretty user-friendly in that we have templates in Excel and we upload it. I think it's a homegrown kind of effort. They developed it over several years, but Farha might have additional information about that.
Yes, we did do a kind of a survey of all the grantees about 6 years ago about what would be helpful in terms of a information system, and this was the outcome of that, the system that she described.
And it does sound like also someone, I think Karen, you also mentioned at least it was impartially used by Tableau to create things. So the next question comes, someone asked, how did you get youth buy-in for the video platform? So I think that's probably for intersections.
As we shared that we had under ANA for the iLead program, we have a program called the Tuplanga Ta'ela Peer Leaders. And this is where confident young leaders and they're becoming positive influence in the community. And just so they join our program starting from the high school level. And then after they graduate high school, they continue to be in our program in college. And so these are some of the projects that they work on, and it's always an exciting, they're very excited about working on the video projects.
And also using their skills and to buy in, it's getting them to be able to love what they're doing out into the community, and then also for the youth of American Samoa. So it's that buy-in that they're giving back to the community and become potential leaders for the future for our youth.
Okay, that looks like all the questions we have in the chat. Does anyone else want to ask any questions verbally or anything we missed?
It looks like we're good to do some closing and housekeeping updates. What do you think, Brent? Okay, good. All right, so thank you all for attending day 3 of the 2022 ACF Indigenous Programs Conference. My apologies for the semi-abrupt start. We hope this was both informative and inspiring. Before we depart today, I wanted to highlight 2 items. Please continue to visit the 2022 ACF Indigenous Programs Conference website to explore the virtual exhibitor hall. The ACF grant recipients throughout the United States and Pacific Islands have contributed to that virtual exhibitor hall, and that you can find that link in the chat box. Also visit the ACF resources page to access more detailed information on the ACF program offices and partners. And thank you everyone who joined the session, panel presenters, and everyone that contributed to the success of this hour panel presentation. I just want to thank you for your time. And I'll stay on for another minute, but if there aren't any other questions, you all enjoy the last 3 minutes we get back.